What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Three Pyramids Network. And today we are checking out some more stuff about the Epstein files, man. The final Epstein files. I think we still. I don't think it's the final, but there's like 3 million more that we need. But also there's other things that are in this that are in the files that I've seen some of them and I don't really know too much about it. It's just like I don't know if all of these are real, but because AI and everything else, damn, AI is working against us and helping us out at the same time. It is what it is. Let's check it out.
Since we last spoke, on Friday, a staggering 3 million pages of the Epstein files was released by the US Department of Justice.
Okay.
And they say that this is every single piece of paper that the government will release regarding Epstein. They also included over 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. And yes, it has been a very long weekend for us. Thank you for asking. My eyeballs are dirty so that yours can feel mildly clean today.
They have video?
And let me warn you guys, this latest drop of files is by far the worst drop that I have personally read through. There are names in here that I couldn't believe,
Elon?
like Xbox, Zohran Mamdani's mother.
See, hold on. That Zohran Mamdani, I don't believe. I think that's fake. I'm not a big fan of Zohran Mamdani, but that whole thing, I want to say is fake.
Jacob Zuma! What the hell is he doing there? And officially, this is it. There should be no more files to come out after this. So the big question is, did people find what they were looking for? Well, that is exactly what we will be presenting to you guys today. We have read through thousands of documents, emails, and reports, allegations.
Was it say? Just a reminder, Elon was asking about coming to the island June 2nd.
And today we're going to be going name by
Elon,
name and show you what we found. So if you appreciate the hustle, hit the like button and the subscribe button right now, and I will stop the yapping and let's go. One day we'll get a whip again. Just waiting for the right moment.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a lot of wild allegations against Trump, Elon, Bill Gates, and many more. So the best way to go through it is go person by person. And Alex, if he is feeling generous enough, he might even give you timestamps. But only if you're subscribed. That's the criteria. Alex, make sure. So let's start with Epstein himself. There are two main things that stood out to me as I was reading through this man's personal emails and personal pictures. And the first is that he does not give a single
corn casserole.
Like, honestly, not a single time did I read a message where he seemed scared, nervous, or stressed. And in fact, there was a nearly 2-hour, never-seen-before interview that was included in these files, and I've got to play you just a clip of this. Because despite the seriousness of the questions, he clearly doesn't care.
No, it's not.
That is because, hold on. That is because for the simple fact that he has everybody in his pockets and he's not worried about nothing. He's like, yo, I get if I need certain things to get taken care of, I get it taken care of. That's really it.
So in fact,
why is it not dirty money?
Because I earned it.
You earned it advising the worst people in the world, right, that do enormous bad things, and just to make more money. What are you, class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
What's tier 1's the highest and worst?
No, so I'm
the lowest.
I'm the lowest.
You're the lowest. Okay, tier 1, you're the lowest. But a criminal.
So who else does he know that's tier 3? Like what?
Yes.
No. I'm one.
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question. Do you think you're the devil himself?
Yeah, I seen that, right? Hold on. He looked at the
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question. Do you think you're the
you see that? You see that he looked to the side? That's probably his agent or something like that was like,
because you have all the attributes. You're incredibly smart. You remember the devil is somebody knows the devil's brilliant. You read Milton's Paradise Lost.
No, the devil scares me.
Can't be the top guy. And his thing is, I'd rather reign in hell than serve in heaven.
I saw that in a movie once.
Yeah. Now, most people would be offended at the very least if someone asked them, do you think that you are the devil himself? Epstein, however, reacts by making a joke. That is wild. This guy's brain almost certainly does not function in the same way the average person does. Now, the second thing that really stood out to me going through all of this is the sheer volume of people that he was connected to. Like, remember, we have got all of his emails, well, at least all, officially all.
No.
I mean, to the point where we were reading things like Xbox emailing him that they've banned his account. More on that in a second. And his casual communications range from royalty to world leaders and politicians to celebrities. And so my big unanswered question is, what did celebrities or politicians know him as when they were introduced? Because this...
The party guy. The guy that throws the extravagant parties, who has all the party favors and things of that nature.
Guy was able to get a meeting with almost anyone. And let me tell you, as someone who gets contacted by...
Because he had people, he had dirt on everybody. I don't care what nobody says. He had dirt on every single person, from royalty families to presidents' families. Bro had dirt.
Strangers a lot coming with opportunities. 90% never get a reply. There are only very few
honestly,
specific
I don't even think
people
he
that
did.
have specific
that
things
was a fake
that actually
thing,
we respond to and communicate and go on their private island. That last part is a joke. But the point is, what did these celebrities know him as? Did he introduce himself as the finance guy that can help them with their money? Or the business guy? Or just, oh, I'm a guy that has a lot of great parties. Do you want to have a meeting? Like, what did they know? Because all of them claim they never knew his real business. So what was the front?
BS.
Huh? Because for some world...
And if you think about it, Bill Gates and his wife are basically were a part of this also, and I think was it last week, they're coming out, or I guess they'll be answering questions or whatever. I don't think nothing's gonna happen to him, but you know what I mean. So
leaders, he's got to be something different to a celebrity. Those are the questions that keep me up at night. But we got to move on, because that is our perfect segue to the first name of the Epstein files: Donald Trump. Now, Trump's name does come up a lot in these files. In fact, if you type his name into the search of the full Epstein library, it shows up 5,176 times. That is...
But also, we got to take in consideration that it might not be him talking to Trump, but him talking to other individuals who bring Trump's name up, or one of his kids' names up, or whatever. So we got to take that into consideration too. And I'm not trying to apologize for anybody. I'm just saying.
Caveat to that, he was actually the president at the time when Epstein's operation was in full swing. And most of the Trump mentions, there's no allegations of any wrongdoing. There were things like, Epstein referencing news articles when he was in communication in his email. So most fine. However, there is one document in particular that is raising a lot of concern online. So last year, the FBI compiled a list of allegations against Trump that they received in 2020 through their National Threat Operations Center tip line. This essentially allowed anyone from the public to phone in and make an allegation and report a crime. And in here, we do see a lot of serious allegations against Trump, not just brief mentions. One of the complaints details a woman who says that she was can't say it on here, by Trump when she was just 13 years old. Another claims that Trump and Epstein held calendar girls parties at Mar-a-Lago, where Trump would auction off young girls and do horrific things to them that, again, I cannot say on here. A different complaint alleges that Trump's golf course in California was at the center of a trafficking ring between 95 and 96, and that some of the girls, when missing, were buried at the facility. The files also detail an FBI interview that they had with one of Epstein's victims, who stated that Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, once presented her to Trump at a party. Apparently, this girl was told by Maxwell, quote, "Oh, I think he likes you. Aren't you lucky? This is great." Now, look, there's a lot of complaints in here, and we could spend all day going through them. Although most of them I can't even say, they're so graphic. But here's the thing. In the documents themselves, the FBI say that none of these allegations can be substantiated. They said even at the time, there was no supporting evidence for any of these to follow up on and actually take legal action. The Department of Justice also made a statement once these files were released saying that some of the documents do contain untrue and sensationalist claims and that they were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. They also said that if the complaints had any truth, they would have been weaponized against Trump already. But ultimately, what do you guys think? It feels to me like all this is done, at least in regards to Trump, is that it's split the Trump camps even further. If you're reading this, hating Trump, you're going to be like, bro is cooked. He is guilty as hell. But if you love Trump, you're reading this and you're saying, well, look, see? All of the files have now been released, and still there's nothing but allegations from a tip line set up during an election. So the big question is, how do you read these allegations? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but we need to move on to one of Trump's former besties, Elon. Okay, now his mentions are pretty wild because remember, Elon has always previously said that he was invited to the island, he'll admit it, but he declined. That's the important piece for today, because the latest file dump suggests something the exact opposite, actually. On Christmas Day 2012, these documents seem to indicate that Elon desperately wanted to attend one of Epstein's parties. He allegedly wrote, "Do you have any parties planned? I really want to hit the party scene in St. Bart's or elsewhere and let loose. A peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I'm looking for." Jeffrey responded, "Understood. I will see you on St. Bart's. The ratio on my island might make Talia uncomfortable," Elon's wife at the time. Also, clear acknowledgement of girls. Another email from Elon to Epstein read, "What day/night will be the wildest party on your island?" And that was in response to Epstein asking, "How many people will you be for the helicopter to the island?" Now, we don't know if Elon actually followed through and visited the island on this occasion, but it doesn't stop there, because a year later in 2013, we see another conversation where Elon is trying again to make plans to visit the island. He says, "Actually, I could fly back early on the 3rd. When should we head to your island on the 2nd? Bro, really seemed kind of eager. But ironically, it was actually Epstein that canceled the plan, saying, "Bad news, unfortunately, my schedule will keep me in New York." I was really looking forward to finally spending some time together with just fun as the agenda. Also, Epstein's former assistant sent an email to Elon in 2013 saying that she sent a copy of 3 girls' passports and that Jeffrey will have his ID on him. No idea what that means. I mean, it could be something really innocent, like, his daughters or, wife, or it could be something worse. We don't know. Now, it's also important to note that Elon has come out pretty hard in defending himself. He said, "No one pushed harder than me to have the Epstein files released, and I'm glad that it has finally happened. I have very little correspondence with Epstein." Yeah, and declined repeated invitations to go to his island or fly to his Lolita Express.
I don't believe
that part. I don't know how we can say that unless these emails are completely not true, which I don't know how that's possible either. He then says, "I was well aware that some email correspondence with him could be misinterpreted and used by detractors to smear my name." The next day, he responded to this post, which says, "I honestly believe that Elon was too autistic to understand the signals he was being given and genuinely thought this was a fun party with tennis and snorkeling." And he agreed. He said, "Admittedly, at first, I was dumb enough to think that he actually meant hanging out with UN diplomats. However, after he clarified that he meant party with young women under the age of 25, I still chose to work on rockets and cars." So, given all of this, what do you guys think? Does Elon get the benefit of the doubt on this one, or is it sus as hell? Let me know your thoughts, but next up, Bill Gates. And this is a very interesting one. Not only was he in the Epstein files, but last night he even responded because the claims have gone so viral. I think you know what I'm talking about. Now, there are 2 emails in question from 2013, which interestingly, unlike all of the other emails that we're going through, this was from Epstein to himself, not Bill Gates. And the reason for that might actually be more interesting than the emails themselves, because it appears this might not be Epstein writing to Bill Gates, rather Epstein writing on the behalf of someone else. Because if you look at the 2 emails, the first super long, written like a rant, a lot of spelling mistakes. The second one contains a lot of the same information, written only hours later, but it's almost like an AI summarized version. No, this is probably not using ChatGPT, but it seems like it. Neither of the emails were sent to Bill Gates. Both emails were sent from Jeffrey to himself, almost like a draft, and they don't sign it off like from Jeffrey. Also, the contents of the email don't really match up for it to be Jeffrey. Like, they're talking about Bill ending their friendship, firing this person from a job, and asking for things like 2 years severance, which I don't think Jeffrey would ask for, and even an investment contract that they had together worth $100 million. Now, it was the last part of this email that went really viral. This person spoke about Bill Gates previously asking to get him antibiotics so that he could discreetly give it to Melinda, his then wife, because he had contracted STDs from, quote, Russian girls.
This
So the big question is, was Epstein writing this as a draft for someone else? And if so, why did that person specifically go to Epstein to write it? Did he have information like the end bit, which is like, my demands, oh, and also, if you don't give me my demands, I also know that you have bleep. I mean, this really could be one of the closest things that could be seen as blackmail. The big question is, was it ever used? We don't know. We do have a response from Gates, actually. His spokesperson told the BBC,
we know because Bill Gates and his wife is no longer together, and they settled for, I think she got over or north of $70 billion or something like that. And then literally right after that, well, I guess was it last week, something like that? She had, she did an interview. She never said his name during the interview, but you knew who she was talking about.
These claims from a proven disgruntled liar, Epstein, are absolutely absurd and completely false. Let me know what you guys think. On to the next person. Okay, so there's actually been a pretty big trend, weirdly, over the weekend with people posting reels, and we don't know if they're actual people or bots, but they're things like, you know, one person who is not mentioned in the files? Vladimir Putin. And then there's like him shirtless on a horse and, you know, fighting people doing judo. Well, I'm sorry to burst the bubble of everyone that thought that was true, but it's not. He is mentioned in the files a lot, in fact. His name comes up over 1,000 times, as well as 9,629 times referring to Moscow. There are also now reports coming out alleging that Epstein's empire was the, quote, largest honey trap in the world, in collusion with Russia and the KGB, as well as possibly Israel and other foreign powers. For those who don't know, honey trap, it's a term used where, you know, someone gets an attractive person to lure someone else in, to put them in a compromising position, use it as blackmail. I mean, I feel like it should be changed from honey trap to Epstein trap, but whatever. Firstly, one thing that is very clear going through all of these Epstein files is that there is a lot of mentions of Russian girls. I mean, there are mentions to do with Jacob Zuma, Prince Andrew, Bill Gates, as we already discussed, and many more. So naturally, this raises the question, did the Kremlin provide Epstein with girls for his network? Well, an FBI document from 2017 details an anonymous report that Epstein was Putin's wealth manager. But similar to the allegations against Trump, this cannot be substantiated. There are also some emails in the files that suggest Epstein and Putin might have met each other on numerous occasions between 2011 and 2014. And then the big one that we need to discuss is the report that just came out from Daily Mail. They claim that they've spoken with high-ranking US intelligence sources that told them Epstein was working on the behalf of Moscow and possibly Israel. And also that the US monitored Epstein's Russian connections for years. But here's where things get crazier. Daily Mail's report says that, quote, American intelligence believes that Epstein was introduced to the world of espionage by business deals with Robert Maxwell. In return, they say, Maxwell laundered Russian money into the West with the help of Epstein. And in case the Maxwell connection hasn't clicked yet, Robert Maxwell was the father of Ghislaine Maxwell. These alleged sources also claim thatEpstein was introduced to the KGB by an oil tycoon in close connection with Russian intelligence. And possibly that they were blackmailing him. So everyone might have been blackmailed here. This could also explain why the new files suggest that Epstein seemed to advise Russia on, quote, how to handle Trump. And in terms of the connection with Israel, an FBI document claimed that, quote, Epstein was close to the former prime minister of Israel, and he was trained under him as a spy. So the big question is, was Epstein in collusion with various international powers? Talking about international powers, though, we must move to Britannia. Let me tell you, not Prince Andrew, got to be one of the most cooked out of everyone in this latest file drop. I mean, we've seen a lot of emails, but it's always Andrew was the one that comes out with pictures. I mean, things are so bad for him that the UK's own Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, he has now jumped in and said that, you know what, yes, Andrew should go to the US and testify in front of their Congress based on what he knows about Epstein. That's pretty significant. Now, the most unsettling pieces of information in this new file drop about Andrew is these 3 pictures. He's kneeling over
creepy,
a girl in this position where she's just laying flat on the floor. We don't know the context. A lot of people were like, oh, she's unconscious. Oh, she's even worse. But there is one picture that does show she has her hand up. So,
but one thing, how do you allow people to be just taking pictures of you like that? Now, granted, back in the day, people would just take pictures and do things of that nature, and nobody would really care. But like, that's just like the Freaknik back in the day.
oh, she probably
And
was
if you know,
conscious.
you know.
There was some strange-looking
Them videos are
American
still
art
out there.
flag-looking
All
table
you
in the back,
aunties and grandmas.
someone it's got towels on it, and someone's
we know y'all little
feet,
freaknesses.
bare feet sitting on there. There are also a lot of emails that are going around, claiming that he was involved in a girl's gruesome death. But a lot of what those viral posts are missing, which you may have seen, is that a few weeks later after that email, which was from the New York State Department, they said they were sent a CD with this supposed Epstein murder evidence, but then followed it up by saying it appears to us to be materials from a crazy person, and as such, it does not need to be produced. Andrew has always, and still does to this day, deny any wrongdoing. On to the next name. Sticking with royalty, however, also in the files is a Swedish princess, Norway's crown princess, and the Danish king. God damn. So you guys might recognize Marius Højby. He's the one going on trial this week, accused of 38 charges, including the R-word of 4 women. Well, you might recognize him because his mother is the crown princess of Norway, Mette Marie. I mean, her name popped up a bunch in this new drop, and this couldn't have come for a worse time
Oh, these
for the
are
royal family. The
motherfucking
mother,
royalties.
the crown princess in the Epstein files, and the son on trial for R.A. You know the rest. That's pretty wild. Now, she's already responded to this on Saturday, saying that she showed poor judgment and she regrets having any contact with Epstein at all. It's simply embarrassing. The palace previously confirmed that she stayed 4 days at his Palm Beach location, one time a few years ago. But again, the emails alone and her meeting Jeffrey Epstein doesn't prove any wrongdoing, and so no legal consequences will follow. Now, as for Sweden's princess, which they actually have several, the files include an email to Epstein reading, here's a photo of our Sophia. You remember, soon Princess Sophia. The whole Swedish press is looking for her while she is in Africa. Now, there's a couple of times that she was linked to Jeffrey Epstein, but this is before she was even a princess, because Sophia actually married into Swedish royalty in 2015, 5 years before this email was sent. And then finally, for Denmark, man, we've really got the trifecta.
Damn, and
Their
Denmark?
king, Frederick, was mentioned several times. One was in an email where Epstein said that he was going to Denmark to meet Frederick, who was at the time the crown prince. And then also another where he was named a guest among 22 others for a dinner that Epstein was organizing. We don't know if he ever attended that event, but according to Denmark's royal house, who have already responded, they say that the king has never, not once, met Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, now, with all the royalty out of the way, how about some names that really, I don't think anyone expected to be in the files? These are the haymakers. Starting with Mamdani's mother. Why the hell is she in there? Well, let me just tell you, because her name was in there, there's now conspiracies going viral on X, and a lot of people are genuinely believing these, that Epstein is Mamdani's biological dad. How did we get here as a species? Now, despite how ridiculous that claim may be, since when they allegedly met, Mamdani was already 18 years old, it hasn't stopped posts that are claiming this from going viral. In fact, one of them has got over 20 million views as of recording. Now, the reference to Mamdani's mom in the files that is in question, Myra Nair, if you wanted to know her name, is actually from an email sent to Jeffrey Epstein by someone who had just attended a after party for a film which had attendees like Bill Clinton, Jeff Bezos, and the director of that film, Mamdani's mom, Myra Nair. The email was sent in 2009, which coincides with the year that she directed the biopic Amelia. And so I guess it would make sense that the director goes to the after party of the film they directed. But how that one mention has turned into Mamdani's father is Epstein is beyond me. Also, shout out to South Africa, because you guys made it
I'm not
into the Epstein files as well. But former President Jacob Zuma was in the Epstein files with emails
boy, he's
suggesting that
sweating
Jeffrey
bullets.
Epstein hosted a small dinner for him at the Ritz in London in 2010. Now, the email that leaked is to a Russian model who Jeffrey wanted to invite to this dinner with Zuma because she would, quote, add some real glamour to the event. And unfortunately for the Zuma fans out there, the dates do coincide with when Jacob Zuma was in London by invitation
AKA
of the Queen.
he's
Now, no
cooked.
idea why they allegedly met or if they even did. We don't know if this ended up happening. But if they did, I'm sure it was the beninging of a great Only South Africans gonna get that joke. Also, something that we learned from the files was that Epstein was in contact quite frequently from one of the Rothschild family members. In this email, we see Epstein speaking with Ariane de Rothschild, and what's interesting, they were talking about Ukraine. The email dates back to March of 2014, which actually was the year that there was a coup in Ukraine. And in response to the Rothschild saying, let's discuss Ukraine, Epstein said, Ukraine upheaval should provide many opportunities, many. There was also other documents that suggest that Epstein's company signed a contract with the Rothschild group valued at 25 million. And then also, even Hitler is in the Epstein files. What? How? So in another conversation with the Rothschilds, Jeffrey Epstein claims that Adolf Hitler lived in a shelter funded by the Rothschilds and the Epsteins. Epstein writes to her that when Hitler was so poor, he lived in a shelter in Vienna, and it was financed by 3 wealthy families: the Gutmans, the Epsteins, and the Rothschilds, which everyone's pointing out would be incredibly ironic since the Epsteins and the Rothschilds are Jewish. And yeah, and then, sticking on a similar note, another tweet that caught my attention was this weird detail from the Epstein records that deserve way more scrutiny. Jeffrey Epstein reportedly ordered 30 separate DNA test kits from 23andMe, enough that the company itself reached out and asked why. Then, a little bit down the line, we actually find emails that may provide some answers. In this one, sent to Epstein from Masha Drakova, which was actually his publicist at the time, it says that she had found criteria for finding smart people. She said in the email that the more Jewish a person was, the smarter they were. So she proposed setting up an event, inviting people, and then doing a DNA test on all of them with, and she specifically references, 23andMe tests. So whether they followed up with this really bizarre event or not, I don't know. But we got to talk about the last final mention in the files,
I'm not gonna speak on
Xbox.
I got plenty of things that I want to say, but I'm not going to speak on it.
No, they were in his emails actually notifying him that they permanently banned his account due to harassment, threats, and abuse of other players. Bro, how did Epstein find the time to play Xbox in between the freaking world espionage? In fact, they said that his conduct was determined to be severe, repeated, and excessive. And look at the date, 2013, when moderation was considered almost nothing compared to today. So bro must have really been cooked. And it begs the question, how did Xbox catch Epstein before the US government? But I think that's a wrap on today.
And also, you got to take into consideration, I was watching Asmongold, and Bill Gates, which is one of the owners of Microsoft or whatever. Microsoft owns Xbox. After that, a whole little STD thing happened. Then, like, it was like 5 months or something like that afterwards, that's when he got kicked off. So Asmongold, or the people on Twitter or whatever, were putting 2 and 2 together and was saying Bill Gates got him kicked off of Xbox Live. But yo, let me know what you think down in the comments down below, man. Love each and every last one of y'all. Make sure y'all please hit that like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. I will catch y'all on the next broadcast, man. The ignorant, eclectic, mad genius out. Peace.